Hey YouTube, this is Phantom Outlaw coming back to you with another review. What we've got going on here today is a quick review of the Gen 4 Glock 19 9mm. Before we get too far into this, I do want to make sure everybody is aware that we are dealing with a safe firearm today. So safety check. Everything is good to go. Alright, so let's all go back real quick and talk about what it is that we're looking at today. This is, as I said before, the Gen 4 Glock 19 9mm. I'm going to take just a few moments to go over some of the specs for you. Again, nothing that I go over with the specs is anything that you can't find very quickly on the internet, but I do like to give a brief description just so we're all familiar with the different numbers. This is the Glock 19 9mm. The overall length is 7.28 inches. The width 1.18 inches. The height 4.99 inches. The sight radius 6.02 inches. The barrel length 4.01 inches. And the weight empty is 23.65 ounces. The weight loaded is 30.18 ounces. The factory trigger pull is 5.5 pounds. The trigger travel is 0.49 inches, and the magazine capacity is 15 plus one in the chamber. Alright, some other quick information on this as far as the sights go. This particular one, I do have the Glock night sights on. I'm fortunate because I do live just outside Atlanta that the Smyrna, Georgia factory for Glock is not too far away. So I was able to stop by there and have them put on the night sights, which actually these are very similar to the Trijicon 3-dot sights that I have on my other Glocks. And I wish I had the knowledge of the various times in the past to have just taken it to Glock on that. I came across that bit of information a little bit too late in the game to have saved some money. But at any rate, I'm very pleased with that particular, with the sights, as we can talk about here. When you look at them, they're very, very much the same thing as the Trijicon 3-dot sights, so just a whole lot cheaper, and installation was very easy and simple going to the Glock factory here in Georgia. Nice folks over there, very accommodating, quite a setup there, so that maybe is a whole nother review in itself. So this also does, because it's a Gen 4, it does have the beaver tail backstrap installed. I've mentioned in some of my other videos that I am a 1911 fan, so the fact that I do have the ability to put the beaver tail backstrap on this and get a very high grip angle on this makes me more comfortable with this. I do like the fact that with this beaver tail backstrap, it's easy to get your hand way up in there and get a great grip on the gun. It's more comfortable for me because again, going back to my 1911 experiences, the fact that you can get that higher grip on it to me makes it easier and more accurate to shoot, and the fact that that's something that is now available for the newer Gen 4 Glocks, to me is a big plus. I have a Gen 4, I believe it's a 22, the Glock 22, that did not come with the beaver tail backstraps, and as a result, because of the little nub that you need right underneath this part here to install the beaver tail, I could not do that. So I do have the aftermarket on that one, but that's a whole other review in and of itself. So the adjustable back straps, the beaver tail back strap in particular, is something that I think is a big plus for the Glock. Alright, this one is, as I mentioned before, it's about 3/4 of an inch shorter than the Glock 17, and the height, it's about a little less than half an inch shorter in that regard as well. So it is a smaller, more compact 9mm. It is still a 9mm, obviously. The magazine capacity, you do give up 2 in the magazine going from the 17 to the 19, but as far as concealed carry, because it is a smaller firearm, it's much easier in that regard. So to give up the 2 rounds but have something that's easier to conceal, more comfortable when you're talking about carrying, that's pretty important to me. The weight difference loaded is just under 2 ounces. To me, that's not that big of a deal. You really wouldn't notice that. I know the term ounces lead to pounds, etc., but a little less than 2 ounces is not the kind of thing, at least for me, that I would notice anytime soon. But the difference in regards of size, I do like this size with the grip and the handle. The way that I grip it, my fingers fit very comfortably on here. So this is as small as I want to go. I don't want to look at the subcompacts or the baby Glocks. I've handled them. they're just not something I'm comfortable with. Yeah, they're fun to shoot like anything else, but they're too small for me. So I'm just not that much into making that switch right now. All right, real quickly going to go over a couple of the changes. As I mentioned in some of my other videos, this is a pretty standard list of changes that I've done. First thing we're going to talk about, the extended slide release. I do have the extended slide release. I don't know how easy you can see that little nub right here. To me, as I said before, that should be a no-brainer for just about every Glock. It's the first thing that I switched out on all of mine, as well as the extended slide release. Again, I've already talked about that in my other videos, but I'll go over it again. It's this piece right here that you use when you're breaking down the Glocks, and it is maybe a 64th of an inch wider or so on each side, so you really don't notice it until you go to grab it when you're trying to break down the weapon. So the fact that it sticks out just a bit on each side makes it a much easier process, in my opinion. I've spoken to a number of people about that, and that does seem to be a pretty popular consensus. But again, each person's going to have their own opinion. I'm not saying mine's right and you're wrong, that's just what mine is. I've already talked about this extended slide release. I like that also because for me it's much easier to get a purchase on that as well. Because it's a Gen 4, it already comes standard with the extended or the oversized magazine release. That is definitely something that I would have made an upgrade to if I'd had an older generation. I like that as well, but it already does come with it. I also have already mentioned that the factory trigger pull is 5.5 pounds, and again that's standard I believe on just about every Glock that they have. And I have the 3.5 pound connector in here, and of course that does not make your trigger pull 3.5 pounds. The 3.5 pound connector is one step of several if you want to lower your trigger pull. So I do like the 3.5 pound connector. I have polished the internals on this one as well as I have on all of my Glocks. So the trigger pull on this one right now is around 4.25 to 4.5 pounds, and that's all the lower I want to go. I can get it to go lower. I have the upgraded spring kit in there. But I don't want it to go any lower because this is a concealed carry item, and I would not feel comfortable carrying a gun that has a 2.5 or 3 pound trigger pull. I have tinkered with some of my other ones and got them down to 2.5 to 3 pounds, and just did not feel comfortable. So I switched back some of the parts on that. To me, that's a fun experience. I enjoy taking these apart, breaking them down completely, polishing different parts, changing different parts, changing out the different springs. There's several different options and different routes you can go, and just playing around. And then I do have a trigger pull gauge, which helps me figure out where I stand. I don't care about the number. I don't care if the number's a 1 or 100. What I care about is how it feels when I pull the trigger. And that's my ultimate goal. I want to get it to a point where the creep isn't something that's going to make it unpleasant to shoot, or really you need to know when you're pulling or when you're squeezing the trigger. You really need to know when bang is going to happen. There shouldn't be a mystery in any firearm for that matter, but certainly not anything that you want to conceal carry. If it's your personal defense item, if it's a gun you're going to have to pull out to save your life in a circumstance, you want to know that any time that you put your finger on that trigger, what's going to happen. There cannot be any doubt. It has to be something that there is absolutely no mystery involved. And then when you pull that trigger, you need to know when it's going to go bang, and that it will go bang. So for me, in the tinkering that I've done, I'm very happy with mine, leaving it at about 4.25 to 4.5 pounds. I think the only Glock I have that I didn't get that low on intentionally is the 20. The Glock 20 is a 10 millimeter because it's a bigger round. I left it right around 5 pounds. So I lowered it a little bit, but not actually probably a little less than 5, about 4.75 or so. But I didn't feel comfortable taking that down anymore. Again, personal preference and just my own 2 cents for whatever that's worth. But this particular one, with the work that I've done on it, it is at the about 4.25 to 4.5. One other change you'll probably notice if you're familiar with these smaller ones is on the face of the trigger itself. I did change the trigger out to the smooth face trigger instead of the serrated edge trigger. Probably not a big deal for many people, but for me, I just wasn't comfortable shooting the serrated edge triggers. Again, I started off my Glock experiences started with a Glock 22 way back when, and that has a smooth trigger. And then my second Glock was the 17, again smooth trigger face. So when I first switched to the 23 and the 19, and I came across the serrated triggers, I didn't even notice it at first. I knew that they had that, but I didn't pay any attention to it. Didn't even file it in my memory for anything to be aware of. But there was just something that was nagging me when I was at the range with those, and then pretty quickly I figured out that it was the trigger faces. So I upgraded those pretty quickly, and well, actually with the I had the 23 first, so I did it with the 23. So as soon as I got the 19, that was the first change that I made to it when I was putting the new connector into it. So my personal preference, I do prefer the smooth face trigger. I know it's standard on the 17s and the 22s. I'm not sure why it's not. Well, I do know why it's not for the 19 and the 23. It's for the import laws, but I guess there's not much that can be done about that. But it is what it is. For many people, that's a very, very fast upgrade or change that is made to the firearms, and I'm certainly among those. So it is what it is, but it's something to keep in mind. If you are looking to purchase either the Glock 19 or the 23, or I believe the baby Glocks are the same way, they are going to come with the serrated trigger, and be aware of that. It may not mean anything to most people. It's probably something you'll never even pay attention to. But for someone who, like myself, who does notice it and is aware of it, it's an easy and relatively inexpensive switch to the smooth face trigger. I believe you can get it for around $13 to $16. The trigger assembly itself is really not too expensive. Assembly is also very simple. If it's something you're not comfortable doing on your own, you can take it to any of your local gun shops. They could probably get it done in about 10 minutes. Hopefully they don't charge you too much of that. But it's a simple process. There's a bunch of videos on YouTube to show you how to do it, so I won't bore you with that information, but it is really a pretty simple process. Again, personal preference on that one. So going back over reliability, this particular Glock I have had no problems of any kind with. I probably have 500 to 700 rounds through this one. Various types of ammo, no issues, no feed issues, no performance issues at all. Very comfortable with this one. This would probably be this is my everyday carry firearm by choice. I have other options. Again, I also have the Glock 23, which is the same size in 40, and that one was for a while and still is from time to time, but typically I'll fall back to the Glock 19. Just if you're keeping score at home, folks, the 19 and the 23 are identical in size and everything except for weight, because the 40 caliber is a little bit heavier. So the Glock 23 is a slightly heavier gun, obviously a different caliber and a different capacity in the magazine, but it's a small difference. But really otherwise, as far as regular dimensions go, they're identical. So swapping out carry between the 19 and the 23, other than a couple of ounces, is something that there's really no difference on whatsoever. So just keep that in mind. But again, as far as for me, size-wise, this is the ideal size for concealed carry, for everyday carry. This is what I look at. Now, yes, I've already mentioned before that there is the subcompact or the baby Glocks that are out there. I am not a fan of those. My own personal preference. They're a little bit too small for me. When I'm holding this one in my hand, like I mentioned, the grip is just right. I wouldn't want a shorter grip at all. This is just the way that I want it to feel. So when I'm looking at different options, that's the one that I'm most comfortable with. You may have a different opinion, and that's fine. But for me, I'm good to go here. So that's my my 2 cents on that. As far as any changes on this and upgrades, the slide cover plate, I think I mentioned this on some of the other reviews. That's just a personal, I guess, personalization. I've changed that on all of my Glocks, and I believe I've got that particular one, the biohazard one, on a couple of them. Just a little fun personality. I've got 3 or 4 different images that I have on the different slide cover plates. It's not a performance issue. It doesn't make the firing of the gun different in any way. It doesn't change the trigger pull. It doesn't change accuracy. It doesn't change anything except the image. You know, it's just a little bit of personalization. So that's up to you if you want to change it. There's a million options out there on the internet. You can find different logos, different colors, all kinds of different options as far as that goes. Installation is very, very simple. It takes a few minutes. It's an inexpensive part. You can get them from anywhere from $8 or $9 up to, depending what your logo is and what the material is, you can spend 20 or 22 bucks on it, I guess. But for the most part, these you can find for about $10 or $12. It takes about 2 minutes to swap them out. Very inexpensive. This little way to personalize your firearm. So otherwise, as I mentioned, also it does have the Glock night sights. It's otherwise the other changes I've made, it's stock. The trigger's different. The extended slide release is different. The extended Slide lock lever is different, the different connector, but I've already talked about those parts. Very simple process. I do enjoy this firearm. I've had no trouble with it. Like I said, it's easy to shoot, it's consistent to shoot. Because it's a smaller and slightly lighter firearm than the Glock 17, there is a bit more felt recoil. It's not substantial at all. I think I mentioned on one of my other videos that my wife prefers shooting the 17 over the 19, but only slightly. And because, and again, I'm not trying to be sexist with this, but because she's a girl, maybe that's the issue. Maybe there's just a little bit more felt recoil with this. I couldn't tell you. She says it's not a big deal. She just likes the feel of the 17 better. To me, I prefer the 19. Maybe it's just a personal little issue that I have. Who knows? But I'm very comfortable with both of them. Accuracy-wise, they're both very, very competent, or comparable, I guess is a better term. Very similar results. Because the 17 is a slightly longer barrel, a slightly longer sight radius, the accuracy is probably going to be a little bit better, but not by much at all. It's not a big difference. Again, like I've said in other videos, I'm not going to waste your time showing you pictures of my targets because that's the way I shoot. It has no impact on the way you shoot. The firearm is the firearm, and I said this before, for the most part, any firearm that I shoot, that I have anyhow, the gun will probably be more accurate than I am. But I have my own success levels, and I'm pleased with those results. So that's where we stand as far as that goes. But reliability-wise, it is a Glock. I have not had any problems with this particular one. No issues whatsoever. So I definitely would highly recommend it. Glock 19, can't go wrong at all. If you've got any questions, let me know, and I'll get back to you as quickly as I can with any of the answers. And I hope you have a great day. Take care.